Welcome back to Doki Doki Literature Club. Chilling here with best girl, Monika. And we're just going to continue on to the side stories. We've got 4 of 6 done already, which makes me a little sad because I kind of want there to be more. But you know what? These have been so lovely and so wholesome. Like, you know, this has just been very pleasant to see. Uh-oh. Am I bothering you? No. Okay, just checking. It's hard to tell since you always look so into it when you're reading. It makes me scared to interrupt. Well, it's within my expectations to be interrupted when I read here. It's mainly when I'm by myself that I don't like it. That makes sense. I guess if you're here in the first place, then you're more ready to socialize, even if it takes a little bit of prodding. It's not so bad to be social if I let others do the work. It can be healthy to put myself in a social environment every now and then. It's mostly difficult when I don't know anyone, or there are too many people, or everyone is being too silly for me to keep up with. Yuri glances across the room at Sayori and Natsuki. Sayori has her head cocked back and her mouth open, trying to catch pieces of a cookie that Natsuki is lobbing into the air, but the pieces keep bouncing off her face and hitting the floor. Maybe I should say something. No need, they just ran out of cookie. What a waste. They've really become good friends, haven't they? I'm happy. Sayori seems particularly good at making that happen. But the two of them are both on the energetic side, so I suppose it works out well. Yeah, come to think of it, you and I haven't had many chances to talk one-on-one, have we? Though that may be partially my fault, since I'm supposed to be the one engaging club members. Not at all. I've probably formed a habit of drawing minimal attention to myself. The responsibility is equally on me, at least to display some openness to engage. Well, what about during times like lunch? Do you meet up with friends? I just read. Oh. But I like it that way. It feels nice to be carried off again after a morning of classes. Do you always read fantasy? Oh, not always. I suppose that's all I've read recently, but only because I'm in the middle of this series. There are still 2 more books after this one. I guess those long books suit you well, since you spend so much time reading. Well, fantasy may be my favorite, but after that, I'm more or less indiscriminate to genres. I'll read anything with depth and maturity. Yeah. Depth and maturity. Just like me. You know, in between all my jokes where I'm just like, pee pee poo poo. Oh yeah? Even like romance? Well, there are a lot of books that have elements of romance in them. Oh, come on, Yuri. You know what I mean. Damn it. No! Monika! This has been so good and so nice and so wholesome this entire playthrough. And finally, out of nowhere, you're just like,
Yeah, but what about fucking?
Go on. Monika lowers her voice. It's a guilty pleasure of mine, so I won't tell anyone if you do too. Maybe. More when I was in middle school. I mean, I was really lonely and people were mean to me a lot. So I just kind of felt like, please don't make me think about the past. Sorry, I just got super curious. You know, we should totally pick out a romance novel to read. That would be so much fun. Absolutely not. Really? Even if it was just between us? Try asking someone who has no shame, like Natsuki. Ouch. Sorry. I swear I didn't mean that. Well, I guess it was my fault for pressing you. I'm like that for things in my past too. You know, things I feel too embarrassed to re-experience. There's nothing wrong with growing out of things. It happens to everyone. For instance, Natsuki's interest in manga reminds me quite a bit of how intense I used to be about my own interests. It makes me think that she'll likely grow out of it too. Hey, were you talking about me? No, we were just talking about our interests have changed over the years. When did you get into manga, Natsuki? Like a couple years ago, I guess. I was already sort of into it before that, but I wasn't really going hard until then. Oh yeah? What was it that inspired you to get more into it? I don't know. I guess, let me think. It was after I discovered a series that I really liked. Yeah, I was just like really fed up with a lot of things, and I got super into this one series that I really related to. I guess I had an edgy phase where I just hated everyone around me and wanted to be by myself. Yeah, we've all been there. We're edgy, you hate everyone, you want to be by yourself, but you're also smarter than everyone else in the room. Hey, kind of like Yuri. Monika! Sorry. That's completely wrong, so it's still cool that you both really found your thing. They're almost like opposites, but it sounds like they helped you a lot through the hard times. You know it. Wow, what the heck? Is that book even bigger than the last one you were reading? It's technically longer, but not by very much. How high do you think it would go if you stacked up the whole series? Natsuki estimates by holding her hand high above her head, sizing up an imaginary stack. I should get one of those mangas that's like 50 volumes long so that I can say I've read more than you. Not that I have the money for that. Please, that would hardly count when your books only have a few words per page. Whoa, Yuri being like, you didn't read more than me. Words matter, not pictures. I know, I was just joking. I can never actually read books like yours. It's too boring for me. Yuri shoots a glare at Natsuki. It's not boring. Chill, I said for me, not for you. Uh-oh. Oh, these two are gonna start fighting like they typically did in the main game? Oh no. I can have my own opinion. I just think it's too convoluted. Sayori, are those from the floor? She's just eating the cookie crumbs off the floor. Gross. Also, wash your hands before touching any of my books. But my hands aren't dirty. Just do it. The oils aren't even there even if you can't see them. Fine. Sayori trots out the door, and Natsuki follows. Yuri, you look a little upset. What kind of nerve does she have to call my hobby boring? Well, she did correct herself. Hardly, she was so condescending. I don't mind if she thinks it's not for her. I already understand that it's not for everyone. But she knows well how much these mean to me. So, how about just leaving me alone instead of needlessly telling me things that you hate about it? I'm sorry, Yuri. Maybe you're right. This won't be the last time people have strong feelings about what they like and don't like. Especially in the literature club. So I should figure out how to mediate discussions to keep them positive and constructive. For the record, I've always been impressed by the level of creativity in your books, and also your ability to get through them so quickly. Thank you. Okay, well, this is something that I'll have to think about and revisit. I'm sure I can help Natsuki find some common ground with you. Common ground isn't necessary. I just wish to be respected. That then. Either way, I'll do my best. I'm skeptical when it comes to Natsuki. I trust you, Monika, but I'm skeptical. You know, shout out to Yuri for actually being like, no, at least respect me. And like what I like, you know? Because typically she's usually just like she's usually like quite the pushover. You know? And here it shows her like, even not directly standing up to Natsuki. She's at least trying to say here like, that wasn't okay. Okay, everyone. We have a special club meeting today. As you know, the Literature Club is a place where we get to share things that we're really passionate about. But that also means we should be mindful of how we respond to each other's feelings. I think we have a chance to turn our differences into positive energy for each other. Aren't you being a little dramatic about this? This is important to me. Well, sorry. I just feel like I'm being accused or something. No, I'm not accusing anyone of anything. I'm sorry if I came off that way. But our conversation yesterday made me reflect on the power of language, and I thought it'd be a good topic for the Literature Club. Don't you think? I'm sure we're going to have differences in opinion a lot, so I need to make sure we're prepared to keep a positive atmosphere in the club. If you say so. Sure. The cool thing about language is that it gives us a lot of different ways to express the same idea or emotion. We have a lot of control over how we want the other person to feel when receiving our thought. This goes for poetry, narratives, casual conversation, basically everything. For example, Sayori, what's your favorite food? I have them organized by category. Should I start with the snacks, or do you mean full meals? Should I include breakfast? Ah, jeez. Okay, how about your favorite fruit? That's easy, cherries. Really? I always thought cherries tasted nasty. What? Cherries are delicious! Whoa, that's a pretty strong reaction. Well, I just don't understand how somebody could think cherries are nasty. How does it make you feel? I don't know, sad? Defensive, maybe? Yeah, I got defensive. See? The reason you had such a strong reaction wasn't just because I don't like cherries. It's because you felt like your opinion was under attack. But that's weird, right? Something like taste is completely subjective. But when I say something like, I think cherries taste nasty, I'm using objective language. I'm challenging Sayori's reality that cherries are delicious with my own, which is that cherries are nasty. Wait, hold on. How is that objective when you just said it was only your own opinion? It has to do with the way our brains interpret the words. You're talking about the reality of the cherries, not your feelings about them. Like, Sayori, let's rewind for a second and pretend I didn't tell you that I think cherries are nasty. Good. So, what if I said, instead of that, I said like, I've tried cherries and they're not for me. It's not the kind of flavor I enjoy. Well, that's fine. As long as you don't call them nasty. Nasty is a nasty word. So, okay. So, cherries was kind of a weird example, but I think it gets the point across. This time around, instead of talking about the cherries, I just talked about my feelings, and Sayori didn't get defensive. So instead of clashing with each other, it's like we received an invitation to talk about our differences. Yuri, you don't need to take notes. I'm not going to quiz you or something. I know that! Sorry, I didn't mean to call you out. You can do whatever you like. But does anyone have any thoughts so far? I got some thoughts. I actually really like that whole conversation and line of dialogue that Monika just had, because this is something I see quite frequently in online discourse when talking about anything, whether it's coming to certain video games or anime or whatever. And that's something I've kind of tried to be more thoughtful about myself, where when I'm thinking about something I don't like say, Kingdom Hearts. I personally really don't like Kingdom Hearts. I've played all of them, but I didn't like the story they were going for, and I found it too convoluted. I've been trying to be healthier about that. This being like, Kingdom Hearts sucks. It's so stupid. Because when it's phrased that way, it makes people who like Kingdom Hearts feel like I'm saying people who also like it suck and are stupid. And that's not the case. And I think that's a really important thought process and line of dialogue that Monika has that we can all do and try to keep in mind when discussing anything. Because like you said, she said it opens up that line of conversation and dialogue where it's like, what don't you like about it? It's like, what do you like about it? Now there's like kind of common grounds where you can kind of like be like, okay, I can see where you're coming from with what you like. Hopefully you can see where I'm coming from with what I don't like. Interesting stuff, that's all. Yeah, I just feel like I shouldn't have to pull all my language through a filter just to protect someone's feelings. Well, you don't have to. The choice is yours and how you want to come across to other people. I'm only suggesting it as a tool to help turn your differences into a positive experience rather than an argument. Right, Sayori? Whatever you say, cherry hater. Oh, come on. Sayori, I actually like cherries. I was just saying that to help demonstrate. What the heck? I've been duped! Haha, I'm sorry, Sayori. I'll make it up to you later. How about a cherry sundae? You are welcome to dupe me anytime, my beloved president. Same. Buying your people's loyalty, how deplorable. Oh, like you wouldn't turn down a free sundae, Yuri. You were certainly a fan of those cupcakes I brought in the other week. I was reading and not keeping track of them. That's enough. We're getting off topic. So, now that we have the gist of it, how about we try it with something more relevant to the club? Like manga, right? Let's try to have a productive discussion about our differences in opinion. Yuri, do you want to start? Well, I'd rather not know. Aw, how come? Well, because I don't see how anything productive can come from that. It's just going to start a fight. No, it'll be fine. That's why I'm here to moderate. Let's just have a calm and rational discussion. Yeah, give me a little more credit. I'm not a child. You don't have to coddle my feelings. I always think it's more respectable just to speak your mind. Respectable? Yuri's expression changes at that word. As Monika recalls, being respected was the crux of the matter for Yuri. Well, the point of the exercise isn't exactly like, it's fine. I have nothing against anyone personally. You're entitled to enjoy whatever it is you like. I just prefer more depth and nuance in my reading material. I look for stories that are imaginative and sophisticated beyond the surface level. Oh, well, that's just a misunderstanding then. I thought you were going to say that manga's for children or something. Like, I don't hear enough of that. But there's plenty of deep manga. I'm not clueless about manga. I've read my own fair share when I was younger. What? Are you serious? How come you never told me? Because I'm past that point in my life, and I really prefer not to revisit it. I prefer more mature things now. Excuse me? Okay, hold on. Can I jump in here? Let's try to keep things subjective. Because if you imply that manga is immature, then aren't you implying that someone is immature for being into it? Well, maybe it's immature to judge people for having different tastes than you. Natsuki? Nobody's immature. I've read Natsuki's manga and Yuri's fantasy, and I love them both in their own way. Okay. It's great that you like it, but I still find it boring. Boring isn't subjective. Okay, it bores me. That's subjective. But, I mean, the thing about... This is ridiculous. Do you see why I didn't want to participate in this? I knew it was just going to make people upset. I'm not upset! Like I said, I don't care what other people think, she cares immensely. But I always get the impression that you secretly look down upon me, so I'm glad my suspicions were confirmed. That's not true at all. You're making assumptions. You can't blame me for getting defensive when nobody ever has the least bit of respect for the things that I'm into. The only thing I look down upon is when people make fun of me for just being myself and trying to mind my own business. What? Have you looked in a mirror? Tell me again about respect after calling all my interests immature. You can't. Please stop. Please. You don't mean the things you're saying right now. Let's just be friends. I didn't mean for this to happen. Well, it did. So please don't invite yourself to try and solve other people's problems next time, okay? Whoa, Yuri. I forgot how, defensive she gets. And even, articulate when it comes to herself and her interests. Yuri's piercing words send the clubroom into a choked silence as she gathers her things. She leaves. Holy crap. I've never heard her sound like that before. She must be so pissed. Well, you weren't very nice either, so I was just saying. How did this happen? It's my fault. Yuri wasn't wrong. I should have tried to moderate a conflict when I know how bad I am at dealing with conflicts. It was really a stupid thing for me to do. It's nobody's fault, and it wasn't stupid. Everyone in the club is a nice person. Nobody would have expected this. But I guess we're sensitive about the things we really love. Honestly, she kind of brought it upon herself. Like I said, I don't care if you're not into manga, but if you actually look down on other people for it, that's kind of the point I was trying to make in the first place. It's not about sugarcoating things. It's about just recognizing and understanding our differences. Okay, but here's the thing about that. Yuri actually looks down on me. It has nothing to do with her word choice or anything like that. So, I see what you're trying to do, but I really think the problem here is her, not just the way we talk to each other, right? I mean, Yuri isn't like that. She's a lot sweeter than you're giving her credit for. I'm sure she'll be reflecting on all this. I actually think everyone should. It'll be fine. I'll figure something out. Wow, I'm just, saying that instinctively. I'm just setting myself up to cause more problems. Yeah, Monika kind of sets herself up to be, the problem solver. Even though she's kind of self-admitted to be someone who avoids conflicts and doesn't try to solve problems. This wasn't your fault, Monika. You don't have to beat yourself up over it. If you ask me, it's good that the truth finally came out. Because I can just move on now. But it's fine, I promise. Just get our mind off this, okay? In fact, it's a good opportunity to read some manga without having to worry about feeding Yuri's superiority complex. Don't be mean. I'll talk or read manga or whatever you want, but don't be mean to my friends, okay? Sorry, I'm just bitter. Everything will be okay. I mean, I don't have the answers, but I at least know we're all good people and don't want to hurt each other. This will be a learning experience. Monika says that, but her uneasiness is given away by how much she has to force the reassuring tone in her voice. This was bound to happen eventually. Natsuki and Yuri have always engaged with each other the least out of anyone, and this is the reason. As Sayori and Natsuki proceed to distract themselves with manga, Monika sighs to herself, unable to shake her worried thoughts. Will the club really have to just come to terms with the fact that some members will be incompatible with each other? Monika desperately doesn't want to admit that, and she knows Sayori doesn't either. But for once, a solution doesn't seem to be in sight. Oh no, you guys will talk to each other, and you'll make up, and everything's gonna be okay. Watch. Side story. Reflection, part 2. Go. A new day arrives. Sayori arrives at the clubroom earlier than usual. That is, not late. As she enters, it appears to be empty still. So she sits down at a desk, pulls out a sheet of paper, primed to jot down her thoughts. Sayori has made a habit of scribbling her thoughts and feelings onto paper whenever possible, as it tends to serve her as her best inspiration for poetry. My heart feels vacant because the ship sailed away. Yo! Yeah! Natsuki! Natsuki pokes her head out from behind the closet door. Sayori's just rioting, and then Natsuki was just... Yo! Sorry, didn't mean to scare you. But it would have been a lot more awkward if I didn't say anything. I doubt you want me to listen in on your poetry thing. Yeah, thanks for realizing that. Should I let you finish that up then? Oh, no, I wasn't. I mean, I just do it whenever it's convenient. You're not interrupting. Where's Monika, by the way? Oh, she's out in the hallway. Huh? Why? Well, just in case she runs into Yuri. Sometimes Yuri is too nervous to come into the club room by herself, so... Oh. Jeez, does really let things bother her for that long? She can't control her feelings. For some people, it's really hard to cope when you get a bad thought in your head. Ugh. Oh, man. 1, accurate. 2, Sayori saying this is pretty indicative of Sayori. Maybe you can distract yourself for a little while. But as soon as it's just you and your thoughts again, it comes back. I just want us to have a normal club meeting. It's a lot easier to pretend like it never happened if we all just ignore it and move on. I don't want to be bothered by this. It's so stupid. Her opinion of me doesn't matter anyway. Huh. So Natsuki's like conflict resolution style is pretty much just forget it, ignore it, move on, pretend like it never happened. Whereas Monika is more like, no, let's try to process this and mediate and figure it out. Besides, it makes me feel really guilty, and I hate that too. It's okay to have feelings. It doesn't make you weak. Let's figure this out together. Fine. Only because you're good at this stuff. Let's try to come up with a happy scene. Maybe that'll help us understand where your bad feelings are coming from. Well, I was happy with the way things were before we had to have that conversation yesterday. What part of the conversation made you upset? Was it Yuri being mean about the manga? Maybe. I doubt it though. Because my friends and other people make fun of manga all the time, but I just brush it off and ignore them. But something about it really got me to me this time, and I hate that I'm letting that happen. Is it because it came from Yuri? Oh no, it's because of Monika. Right? No, why would that matter? I mean, well, maybe. I hate that she thinks she's so much better than me just because she likes to pretend to be all sophisticated. Yeah, that's what it is. At least other people decide they don't like me or manga or whatever. But Yuri acts like she's too good to even give it a chance. I'm sorry. Everyone deserves a chance. Yeah, exactly. Would you give Yuri's books a chance? Ha! After this? Obviously not. What about before this? Well, I would until I got bored, which wouldn't take very long. But if you actually keep an open mind, then it's not hard to realize that a story can be deep and meaningful without being needlessly complicated. Yeah, I see. But, I like Yuri's books. Yeah, but you like manga more, right? Sayori shakes her head. I like them both. I like them in different ways, but I like them both. I mean, the manga, it's really honest and fun and easy to just let go with. And the fantasy has a lot to interpret and uncover, and it's really rewarding to have some good quiet time together with it. But the most important thing of that is that both of the manga and the fantasy are true to themselves. So I love them both. And I think there's room for both of them to be in the same club together. And I just feel like maybe they have more in common than you would think. Metaphor! How do you get along with everyone so well? I always get into fights with people. Like first it was with Monika when I was new to the club, and then it was you, and now it's Yuri. And I'm always like, oh, that person is just being such a jerk. And if they just realize that, then we can at least get along. But nobody else has this problem. I just keep running away from the reality that everybody's just a jerk to me because nobody likes me. Or, another possibility, old saying is, if you go through the day and you ran into an asshole, well, that person's an asshole. But if you go throughout your day and everyone's an asshole, you're the asshole. And I don't know why, and I don't know what to do about it. I don't know what's wrong with me. I hate it. Natsuki? Sayori puts a comforting hand on Natsuki's shoulder. You're a wonderful person. You deserve to be loved as much as everyone else. Everyone has different ways they like to communicate, And sometimes that makes it harder for us to understand each other. I think that sometimes we get lucky and we make friends who are really good at the same kinds of communication. And it feels like you magically connect with them. But other times, Even if both people are really nice, it's easy for them to misunderstand each other or get the communication wrong. It's something that Yuri struggles with a lot too. See, again, this is just like really good, honest writing and story about how different people communicate. Like different people connect in different ways. Different people express themselves in different ways when it comes to frustrations or when it comes to processing emotions or even expressing those emotions. Some people have external conflict resolution. Other people are internal. This is a good conversation to see, and I think it can be really helpful or important for people and maybe learn a little bit. Myself, personally, I'm like an internal person. Like, when something happens and I need to figure through it or I'm feeling something, I internalize it a lot. Like, I'm in my head trying to figure out what's going on, why do I feel that way? And that's how I go through it, rather than necessarily writing my thoughts down or talking out to another person. Which, even though externalizing it does help. And that was actually something that I really struggled with when I was first going to therapy, was allowing myself to kind of be vulnerable and open up that way. It can be really hard. It takes a lot of like reflection and self-awareness and vulnerability. Exactly. That's what I was just saying. You know what I'm most afraid of? These have been so sweet, so wholesome, so good, that by the end of all these side stories, somehow I'm going to end up getting jebaited and it's going to go right back to horribleness. I'm bad at that one. Vulnerability. I always have to be the strongest. What do you mean? Tell me about that part of you. Well, it sounds stupid, but I'm really used to people being mean to me. Like my friends, and I guess my dad, like when I don't get good grades or even stupid things like if my room isn't clean. So what am I going to do? Cry about it? If I let myself get upset, then it's just letting them win. I'm better than that. I'm better than all of them. So things always have to be everyone else's fault. It feels like something goes wrong, and there's even a tiny hint that it might be my fault then. I get really angry. I always find ways to blame everything else instead. Do you see yourself as better than Yuri? If I said that, then I would just sound really full of myself. No, our thoughts and feelings are two different things. Even if we don't like our feelings, we have to understand them when we want to learn more about themselves. That's a part of vulnerability, you know? Accepting that we have feelings that we don't like. I hate that. My feelings make me a bad person. Oh, no. Oh, Natsuki, no one's feelings makes them a bad person. Because my feelings just want to tell me that I'm so much better than her. That she's a judgmental know-it-all who's stuck in her edgy phase, and I'm just way above that garbage. But I'm terrible for feeling that way. You're not terrible. You are not your feelings. But you are not your feelings. Say that to yourself, out loud. Fine. I am not my feelings. The way I like to picture it is that those feelings are like your roommate. You live in the same house and you gotta see each other every day. And even if you can ignore each other most of the time, you're gonna run into each other every now and then. And it's gonna make you feel like poop. So the other option is to get to know each other. You can communicate and learn from each other, and maybe even help each other change for the better. Does that help you understand? How do you know so much about this stuff? Sayori's doing a really good job about this. She really is. I just have a roommate that can be really hard to get along with. Called depression. Depression? But you're like the happiest person I know. Wasn't really expecting Sayori to actually open up about this to Natsuki as well, of all people. But at the same time, it's good that Sayori is feeling good and safe enough to open up about it. I am not my feelings. Damn. Ugh. I want to be a good person like you. Aw, you little sweetheart. We're all good people. You and Yuri and Monika. And I think Yuri will eventually learn that about you. Natsuki remains silent, feeling a little overwhelmed. Despite Sayori's kind reassurance, a complicated mixture of pain and sadness seems to fill her, as though flowing from a wound inside her. Was it a result of her vulnerability? No. It wasn't as though she was inflicted a wound after becoming vulnerable. It was as though she began to rediscover an old wound, one that cannot simply be bandaged and left alone any longer. Aw. Poor Natsuki! No. Yuri? What are you doing all the way over here? I was looking for you.
Please don't yell at me.
I'm not going to yell at you. I just wanted to say that I'm sorry about what happened yesterday. It was unfair of me to put everyone on the spot like that. Next time, I won't just try to jump in and solve everyone's problems. I guess it's a bad habit of mine.
You're not mad at me?
I thought you were the one mad at me.
I was so awful yesterday.
Yuri curls up, recalling the details of the argument.
And I can't even have a normal conversation without saying something wrong and making everyone upset.
Hold on, that's not what happened at all. Let's talk about this, okay? Yuri pauses for a second, then manages a nod. Monika takes a seat next to her on the staircase.
I'm having a lot of negative thought patterns and I can't get away from them.
What kind of negative thought patterns?
Like everyone hates me, especially Natsuki.
This again, it's very... Like this, the kind of language they're using to discuss these thoughts and feelings is, again, very, I guess mature. The best way I can think about it, like emotionally mature. Because like, this is one of the things that I also had to learn about when I did my therapy retreat, was these negative thought patterns and realizing when it is a pattern and coming up with tools to break out of those patterns and kind of handling it a bit more.
Aw, that's terrible.
I don't think Natsuki hates you.
How do you know?
Well, because Monika thinks back to the time that she herself found herself in an altercation with Natsuki, and how a display of maturity from Monika was enough for Natsuki to reevaluate her own feelings as well. I think Natsuki is just naturally defensive. I think she acts mean when she feels the need to protect herself. But, you know, she's not really a bad person. In fact, I think she can be really thoughtful and considerate. She just, well, I guess the way it works is that she wants to receive some degree of kindness first before she feels comfortable returning it.
Oh, but that means the burden is on me, and I don't know how to say things that make people like me. Every time I open my mouth, I just...
Yuri shakes her head at herself and tugs on her hair. It's okay, Yuri. You don't need to beat yourself up. I think anyone would like you if they had the chance to get to know you.
Well, unfortunately, the opposite is true. That's why I'm not talkative anymore in the first place. Because everyone used to think I was weird and talk about me behind my back. That's just what happens when I draw attention to myself. Natsuki even said she found it more respectable when people speak their minds. So I did. And then she hated me anyway. That was enough to confirm my fears.
But Sayori and I like you, and we've gotten to know you a lot by now, right? Yuri doesn't seem to have a response. Hey, what do you think of Natsuki?
I don't think about her.
That's not what I meant, really.
I
was just wondering if you had an opinion of her.
I do.
What is it?
Natsuki seems to bring out the worst in me, and I feel really ashamed of it. I like to think of myself as a fairly sophisticated person. So for someone to just treat me like I'm inferior despite my tastes, that's just the worst kind of insult coming from someone like her. And it makes me think bad things about her.
So they both think each other is trying to be more like holier than thou than the other. Miscommunication.
But everyone else seems to like her, so the only explanation is that it's me who's doing something wrong again. And my feelings about her are wrong. And I'm wrong to get upset over something so childish and inconsequential.
No, Yuri, feelings are never wrong.
Well, they're not right.
That's the thing. Feelings are never right or wrong, you know? They're just a state of being that we don't always have control over. But that doesn't mean they have to control us. I feel like that's something I learned around when I first started the club. We can hate ourselves for feeling a certain way about things, or we can, just acknowledge that they exist and try to understand them better. I can never be mad at you for just feeling a certain way. It's about how you handle them. And I think working through feelings is a great opportunity for teamwork. Yuri wears a dejected expression.
You make it sound so easy. You're so mature and so good with people. I feel like such a child in comparison. Oh, Yuri, I'm far from perfect. But these are learned skills. They didn't just come natural to me either. It's really hard to, reflect on yourself and separate your feelings from your thoughts. I just want to be a good person. Well, I think it takes a good person to get this far. That's not good enough. I want to be able to communicate it to her. Communicate what? How I feel. How it makes me feel frustrated and upset when she's so negative and dismissive of the things that mean so much to me. And how it reminds me of me. Oh, yep, there it is. Aw, because I know what it's like to feel misunderstood and angry at everyone. I know that telling yourself you're better than everyone else is just a defense mechanism. We're just people. We're fragile and unstable, but I'm just tired of that getting in the way. I can't stand it when the peace is disturbed like this. Yeah, you can't focus on your reading when the peace is disturbed, right? Because the literature club should be happy for everyone. Monika looks at Yuri in adoration. I feel like Sayori must be rubbing off on me, because I really want to hug you now. Aww. Sorry, I didn't mean to make you uncomfortable. No, well, if you wanted to, then I wouldn't really mind, so... Monika pulls Yuri into a short embrace. You're so gentle. And I love when you communicate your feelings. I feel lucky to get to see that side of you. And I'm sure Natsuki will too. I'm going to write her a letter. Oh, a letter? What a great idea! Just because I'm not good at talking, especially under pressure. I always let my feelings get the best of me, and I forget to say all the important things, and I say things I don't mean. Well, I think a letter would be wonderful. Such a nice way to communicate. Yuri's face hardens with determination. People don't naturally gravitate towards me like they do for you and Sayori. My personality just isn't suited for that, and I wouldn't want it to be. But something I've learned is that friendships don't always just magically appear out of thin air. For instance, I never would have seen myself making friends with someone like Sayori. We're opposite in a lot of ways. But I'm friends with her because she puts so much effort into understanding me so that we can get along. I think it was the same with you. You both gave me a lot of time and patience. And I wonder if she feels the same way. Natsuki? Yuri nods. I always thought that if I wanted to make more friends, I had to be somebody that I'm not. That there's a type of person or a magical formula that I have to follow in order to make someone like me. And that's just like me to think that. Always so occupied with myself that I fail to understand other people. I think that's actually fair for Yuri to say. And I think that's a sort of trap, especially for younger people. We'll say middle school, high school, maybe even early college age, where when trying to make friends with someone, people warp or alter their personality to better match or mirror the person they're hanging out with, because they feel like, well, if I act a little bit more like them, then they'll like me too, because I'm just like them. And that's not a healthy thing. Like, that's one of those, be true to yourself and have people like you for you. But that's also like I'm certainly guilty of that as a kid, where like I try to act more like the people around me to get them to like me more, even if that made me end up acting in ways that I myself don't like. Yuri shakes her head. Friendship happens when you think about the other person, when you offer time and effort to understand them and respect them and trust that they also want to be a good person. That's what I learned through my observations in the literature club. Observations? Monika's caught by surprise. Yuri has always kept to herself so much that it's unusual to hear her suddenly talking about the club like this. But Yuri gently smiles to herself. You always let me listen to your thoughts about people. Sayori too. And it makes me happy because I learn a lot of things. That's so sweet. I had no idea it meant that much to you. Monika never thought much of it. But in the past weeks, Yuri always seemed to be especially attentive when it came to the problems and concerns of others, always wanting to listen and learn more about her friends in the club. It's true. Sayori and Monika are naturally more comfortable with other people and can more easily work through the situations of conflict. But that doesn't make them better people.
Everyone has strengths and weaknesses and the capacity to improve. And the first step towards improving oneself is reflection and self-awareness. It's something that Yuri never gave herself enough credit for, but Monika can recognize as an incredible trait. And with that, her confidence in the club is restored. A very shy girl with long, pretty hair is wandering the bustling lunchtime hallways, her fists pressed into her collarbone. When she finds the literature club president's classroom, she stands at the door, glancing all around her before peering inside. Monika is sitting and chatting with a group of unknown friends. Yeah, as expected, this was a bad idea after all. Suddenly, Monika glances towards the door, making the girl panic and duck out of sight. Before she can regain composure and decide for sure to leave, the classroom door gently opens. Yuri? What a surprise to see you during lunch. Yuri squeaks a response.
Please help me.
What? Is everything okay? Yuri shakes her head.
I don't know how to write letters. Ahaha!
Thank goodness, I thought there was some kind of emergency. Monika briefly glances over her shoulder at her other friends. Do you want some help? We can go find an empty classroom or something.
Is that okay? I feel bad taking you away from your friends.
It's totally fine, I promise. We weren't really doing anything. One sec. Monika trots back into her classroom, says something like, I gotta go, to her friends, then grabs a pen off her desk before returning to Yuri. Okay, let's find somewhere quiet. Yuri nods and follows Monika as the two of them set off.
How are you today?
Huh? Me?
Well, yes.
Oh gosh, sorry. I was just caught off guard. I'm doing well today, just tired. I never seem to get enough sleep during the week.
How come?
Oh, I don't know. I think I'm just easily distracted. I get really sucked into things and start neglecting the time. Me too, I do that too. Same. I always feel like I got so much I need to get done during the day, especially when it comes to work, and then I end up not getting that stuff done because I just work on other things or get myself distracted by really stupid stuff like YouTube Let's Play videos. Ah, hey, this classroom is empty. Let's go in here. After peering inside, Monika opens the classroom door and the two of them enter. Yuri's moment of relaxation ends. She watches as Monika pulls two chairs up to the same desk, then obeys as Monika beckons her to take a seat. She stares down at the empty desk. You nervous?
I don't want to do this.
We don't have to. We can come up with something else. Yuri shakes her head.
It's my chance to do something good. I need to take initiative.
Gosh, you must be really determined. I know how hard it is to step out of your comfort zone. I'll be sure to encourage you. Yuri pushes through her anxiety and grabs a handful of lined paper from her notebook. Then she picks up her pen. Ah, look at them writing together. And Yuri's still doing like the nervous playing with her hair thing. Hey, you're left-handed. That's neat.
Yeah.
Now we don't have to worry about bumping your arm. Monika playfully rubs her shoulder against Yuri.
Sorry, I'm just being silly, I guess.
Anyway, how about we start by listing the different ways what you want to say to her? Yuri thinks.
I feel embarrassed all of a sudden.
Oh, it's okay. How about some of the things you said to me yesterday?
But, never mind. I guess I'll try.
Yuri thinks for a moment longer, her tension evident. Then she writes the word reflection.
This is about my reflection on our behavior. The key question is why we act like this towards each other, but we have been able to separately be friends with Sayori and Monika.
That's me.
Yes, it is. So,
Yuri thinks.
I've been able to befriend the two of you because you've taken the time to understand my needs and respect my interests.
The same goes for Natsuki too. We started off as pretty hostile to each other because I was so worried about getting what I wanted, but she just wanted to be respected more than anything else. Once I stopped making it all about me, she was able to do the same.
I want to do that too. So what kind of things do you want to do for her? I want to do the same things for her that I like to receive. I like it when people respond positively to the things I talk about and not just brush me off. I like it when my feelings are taken seriously. And I like it when you and Sayori trust that I want to be a good person, even when I'm not doing a good job at it.
Let's write those things down.
Okay.
Yuri writes some things down. I think the most important thing to remember here is that Natsuki is feeling vulnerable, so we should make sure to put that the letter puts her first. It's hard when you're feeling hurt, but it never helps to just tell someone all the things that they're doing wrong. I think first you have to make sure that they know you're ready to respect them and listen to them and admit the things that you feel you could do better. Then finally, you ask what you would like in return. How does that sound for structure? It could be 3 paragraphs, one for each of those points.
I like that.
Oh, there's that smile.
My thoughts were so disorganized, I had no idea how to come up with any kind of structure. You're so amazing at these things.
Oh, stop. You've done so much more than I have, you know? You spend so much time reflecting and being open-minded. That's the hardest thing for anyone to do. All I'm doing is helping you put it on a piece of paper. So, I think you're the amazing one. Monika gives Yuri's hand a quick squeeze. But as she lets go, she's caught by surprise when Yuri curls her fingers to hook Monika's hand in place. Aw. For a while, they sit like that in silence, save for the occasional scratching of Yuri's pen against the paper.
Yesterday, you told me something that I'm thinking about a lot.
What was that?
The thing about how feelings aren't right or wrong, and that they're just a state of being we need to come to terms with. It made me think about how a person's behavior isn't always just how they decide to be. It's also made up of their past experiences and their insecurities. I think that helps me see other people as actual people, rather than as insignificant side characters who are out to get me somehow.
Is that how you felt about Natsuki? Yuri nods.
But in reality, everyone is always trying their best, and everyone wants to be happy.
Monika peers over at Yuri's paper, but to her surprise, Yuri pulls it in closer, partially covering it with her arm.
I have to be able to read it to help you out, you know. It's okay. My thoughts are a lot more organized now, after being able to talk to you about it. Now that I'm actually putting it on paper, I realize I'd really prefer others not to read it.
Yuri laughs softly to herself, a rare expression. I'm kind of glad to hear that, actually. I somehow kept finding ways to butt into this whole thing. I've done enough damage. But it's also so wonderful talking about this. I mean, I always thought you were really smart, but... Yuri smiles.
I will always be terrible at these things. People are just so incomprehensible to me. I'll never get the hang of being one. But listening to you has really helped me make sense of some things. So just don't call it damage, please.
Monika gives Yuri a gentle smile.
I can't believe I came to this club looking for fantasy geeks, and all I got was real friends who value me.
Is that a joke?
Of course it is. I still can't tell with you. Sorry.
No, I love it. Please never change.
As you wish.
Yuri glances at the clock.
We're almost out of time.
Will you be able to finish?
Before the end of the day? Probably. But I don't want to come to the club the same day that Natsuki reads it. I'm too shy.
I can give it to her instead if you'd like. Yuri nods.
As long as you promise not to read it.
Of course, I promise.
Thank you.
Yuri exhales, and the two stand up.
I'll message you when it's ready.
Monika nods. Good luck. I'm here if you need me. Yuri returns a nod, and the two depart. Oh, that was so sweet. Again, just all these side stories have been so good about processing emotion, communication, conflict resolution, dealing with emotional states of being and how to get through that. That all of that has just been so freaking good. And such a stark contrast to the main game. And I really appreciate the writers and the creators of the game using this as an opportunity to be like, hey, this is a much healthier way of handling with all this other stuff. We've showed you a very bad, poor example, but consider this as well. And I think that's excellent. I'm loving this. There's only one side story left, and that makes me really sad, but I can't wait to finish it. Again, hoping I don't get debated. As always, thank you guys so very much for watching. See you next time.